What is purpose? What does that mean? What does it mean when someone says purpose? For me, my definition would be one that I'm going to borrow from an apostle that I really love to listen to. He said, purpose is that one thing which you must succeed at. Otherwise, everything else that you succeed at will not count. I'll say it again. Purpose is that one thing which you must succeed at. Otherwise, everything else that you succeed at will not count. And I don't think there's any more apt description of purpose than that. Because it really doesn't matter what we get in life. It really doesn't matter what we achieve in life. If we have not answered the question of purpose or fulfilled purpose in our lives, everything else that we succeed at in life, will go far. I'll give you an example. If we look at some of the richest people in the world, and I think this is widely known, that some people have achieved wealth to the point where they practically don't need anything. And at that point in life, many of these people, majority of them, now face true reality and ask themselves the question, okay, what is there to live for? Because many of us attach our purpose to wealth acquisition or to being quote unquote successful. And the truth is, once you get there, then you ask yourself, why else am I alive? Why am I still here? If I can ask for something and I just have to make a phone call, I get it. Or I can simply say, this is what I want, and it comes to me because I have enough wealth to acquire whatever it is that I want on the planet. I think you get to a stage where, like Elon Musk, you're going to try and create life on another planet. Start a whole new civilization on another planet. And so it begs the question, is the reason I exist really to work or to achieve success in this field or in that field? Is that the only reason why I'm alive? Can that be the only reason why I'm alive? I heard this story recently of a guy. So I'm going to frame it my own way. There are two guys. They went to an event, and this event was full of billionaires, right? A lot of people who have made it in life and are successful and all of that. And so one said to the other, because there's always that person in the gathering, one said to the other, look at that guy. In one day, he has made more than you have made in your entire career. And the other guy responds and says to him, but I have something that he will never have. And then he asked him what? And then he said, enough. Think about it. That's the thing with attaching your purpose to wealth acquisition. There's always more, and you will never stop. And so the basic question, when is it enough? When do you believe it is enough? I don't believe you will ever see true satisfaction in your life until you achieve purpose. And that's why that definition makes the most sense. That it doesn't matter what I succeed at, if I become the richest person in the world, if I become the most famous person in the world, if I sell out the O2 Arena, if for many young people, come out and get the best grades. I graduated with a 5.0, first class, 2-1, whatever it is you want to call. I got a job with this company. I have an internship where I'm earning 6 figures, 7 figures. My business has taken off. I believe you'll never experience true satisfaction in life until you achieve purpose. You will chase and chase and chase, and you will never stop chasing. Purpose is not career. Purpose is not work per se. Some people use work for it. Some people use work to define purpose, but it's in a different context. But when I say work, what I'm talking about is people's jobs, people's career paths, people's businesses. Career paths, businesses, jobs, all of those titles and the likes are tools which we use to achieve purpose. They themselves are never a person's purpose. Nobody's born with the purpose to become a banker. Nobody's born with the purpose to become a web developer. And if we look at the direction that the world is going into, where AI now is being able to do many of these administrative tasks, and you ask yourself, if AI does my job and I just got fired from my company right now because an AI does my job better than I am, more efficiently than I can, then ask the question, so does that mean I no longer have a purpose? If you are an eternal being, your purpose cannot be something that has temporary value. And temporary even while you're on earth. Because at some point you have to retire. And it's why if you look at the data, many people after retirement go through this existential crisis where they ask themselves, why am I here? Because there's no longer work to attach their identity to. So purpose is not career. And so you might think, this might just be it for me and I don't have a purpose, but I believe everybody is created with a purpose. It's a question that used to scare me when I was asked, when I was younger than I am now. Somebody asked me what's my purpose, I ran away from that question. But everybody that was created with a purpose. And one of the reasons I believe this is because you were created in the first place. There is not a single invention that man has created that does not have a purpose. You can think for eternity and not find one. So everything that was created with a purpose. And I say this to people who believe that they were created. I'm not talking to people who believe that they just appeared or some kind of big bang is the reason why they exist. That's a very interesting perspective on life. And I don't think you would ever understand the topic of purpose if you don't believe that you were created. And so if you're a person that believes you were created, you must understand, if anything is created, it has a purpose. And so if you were created, that means you do have a purpose. For the believer, and permit me to digress a little, for the believer, the purpose is given and is stated in Scripture. To know Christ and to make Him known, that's the purpose. Everything else is a tool to achieving that purpose. To know Christ and to make Him known in different ways. It can be those who do things like relationship counseling, those who are pastors, those who are choristers, all and on. And those things themselves are not the purpose by themselves, but they are the way that these people make Christ known. So if you're in a place where you're asking yourself the question, that's one of the things that you can use to understand. This is at the core of everything I'm doing. This is my purpose. I just need to find what it is that I've been given that helps me achieve the purpose of knowing Christ and making Him known, which we'll get to later on. So to come back to where we were, I was saying that I believe that everybody is created. I was saying that I believe that everybody that was created with a purpose. And one of the reasons I mentioned is that you were created in the first place, because everything that was created must have a purpose. Everything. That's one. Two, and this part is for believers. Jesus died for you. I can't give you a more compelling reason for why I believe that you have a purpose. If a man can go through the amount of suffering that Jesus went through for the sake of you, or with you in mind, I promise you, it did not exist for no reason. You know, on the night before this man faced the crucifixion, he was in a garden of Gethsemane. I think that's how they pronounce it. And he was, I'm going to say terrified, because while he was 100% God, he was 100% man. To the point where he prayed and was sweating blood, according to Luke. Praying that the suffering that he was about to face should pass him by. Which means this wasn't something that he wanted to do, or at least the man in him, the flesh in him, wanted him to do. And that's why I think Jesus' life was so remarkable, because even in times when Peter would say that, oh, God forbid you will not die, out of love for Jesus, and then Jesus says to him, get thee behind me, Satan. It's a remarkable way to live your life, knowing where it's going to end. But I think that's one of the reasons Jesus lived his life to the extent that he did. But we'll get to that when we discuss about meaning. And so 1, everything that was created with a purpose. And 2, Jesus died for you. So you must have a purpose. You must have a purpose. And this is not me pushing you to force yourself to find what this purpose is. But I want to convince you that you do have a purpose. That you do not exist for no reason, or that while truly you are just one piece of a larger puzzle, without that piece, the puzzle is not complete. And so with this thing that you call life, that you feel insignificant in, and just, live life the way that you do, without a worry, without anything that gets you up in the morning, you must understand, in this large puzzle, you are a piece, a tiny piece, but without that piece, the puzzle can never be complete. You must live your life with that consciousness. You are created with a purpose. And I think this will change the activities that you do. Because many people wake up and what's a regular day for them. Let's not even talk about many people. Let's talk about you. You wake up and what a regular day for you looks like is the minute your eyes open, the first thing you pick up is your phone. Use it for a couple of minutes or hours. And then a parent comes to your room, if you're somebody that still stays with your parents. If you are not, you eventually decide to get up and go do some stuff around the house. Or maybe you have a job. And so when you wake up and scroll for a little bit, you're like, oh, it's time to go and shower and then go to my job. And you get up and you go to work and you do everything that they ask you to do at work. And you come back from work tired. And maybe you have to cook, maybe you have to clean, maybe you have to get to something that you couldn't get to before. And after the long day's work, you finally sit to relax and pick your phone again, because you feel like you deserve that chill alone time to just scroll for a bit before you sleep off. And you repeat the cycle day after day after day. That's choosing to be ignorant of the fact that, again, you are a small but very essential piece to this large puzzle we call life. To leave it on autopilot and to only do when you are told to do. And to live fulfilling every desire that comes to you, the desire to scroll, the desire to buy, the thing that your body is telling you that you are craving, the desire to walk into any relationship just because it is fun without considering what the consequences are long term. Every desire that comes to you, you simply obey. Because you do not understand, again, that while you are a small piece of the puzzle, you are very essential to the completion of that puzzle. And the thing that qualifies you to be a part of this puzzle, or to be a part of the completion of this puzzle, is not fame. It's not money. It's not all the standards that we've placed on the average human being that tells them that this is what they need to be seen as important. It's not any of that. It's just the fact that you were created. And the design by which you were created. The image of God. Unless I have a purpose for you, I cannot create you and give you my image. Unless I have a purpose for you, I cannot endow you with that much power that came as a result of the sacrifice of Jesus on the cross. That what they call the Holy Ghost now lives on the inside of you, and we say that it's the fullness of God. And if you think about who God is, the one that spoke heaven and earth into creation, and we say that he lives inside of me and you. I can't give you that much power unless there's a purpose. Because if we believe God is all-knowing, then he cannot make such a mistake of just, oh, you know what, I like him, let me just give him. There is a purpose. It needs to be screwed into your mind. 3 things that I believe when you live a life conscious of purpose, it does for you. Number 1 is that purpose in itself gives you grit. Right now, where you are is that if you face a challenge, you encounter something that is difficult for you to do, when you try to do it and it proves difficult, you immediately tell yourself, oh, it's impossible and it's beyond my abilities or capabilities, and then you come on your hand. But I think that decision is one that is inspired by the thought that there is no purpose for what you are doing. Research has been, there was a research that was conducted some time ago on children in school to find the one thing that is the predictor of a child's success in school. What we normally think it is, things like IQ, they're just born with it, it's raw talent, like it's hereditary. But apparently, according to the research, IQ had nothing to do with why a child will end up being successful in life. It was one thing they found, and it was grit. G-R-I-T, grit. Even if I'm not as intelligent as the person next to me, if I have grit, I will outwork him. And that's what purpose does to you and for you. And so if you had goals or things that you started working on but you give up on at some point because they proved difficult, when you understand purpose, it's difficult for you to stop where other people stop. Another perfect example of this would be, in school, we always had these people whom would write an exam, right? And let's assume the exam is scored over 100 points. You wrote the exam, you scored 54 over 100. You look at your score, you're like, thank God I did not fail. At least I crossed the half point mark. So thank God I got there. and you're kind of happy. Maybe not too happy, but you're happy. And now you see somebody else crying, wailing in tears. And you walk up to this person, you're asking the person, what's up? Why are you crying? And they tell you, oh, I scored 90 over 100 in exam. I'm so sad, guy. Why will I score only 90? Yourself, you can't ask yourself, like, is it that I am an olodo? Is it that I do not have sense? But the thing that drives the both of you are very different. And many times, if you just ask a couple of questions, you would see where it's coming from. There are households that their identity has been attached to success. Failure is not a thing that happens in that house. And what they deem as success is not the same as what the average person calls success. For you, success was that 54 over 100. For them, it's maybe from 95 and above. They have a drive that you do not have. For some of them, it may even be fear, because they know that they grew up in households where their father expects nothing except excellence. And so that 90 will seem like a failure for the father. And the fear of what will be done to them will drive them. There's a story I heard recently about a boy that literally died because of this same drive in the pursuit of something. His bucket fell into a tank, I think, or a well. I can't remember which. And he knew, and he kept saying, his friends were telling him, leave the bucket. You can't go in and get it. But he said, if I go home without the bucket, my mother will kill me. Small boy. That fear drove him to the point where he tied a rope around him, asked them to hold it, and he went down into the well. Unfortunately, in the pursuit of getting that thing, he died. What would drive you to the point where you look at a well? It should scare you to jump into it, yet you went. That's what purpose does for you. Obviously not to the point where you jump into a well and make a stupid decision like that. But you get what I mean. Where other people say, this is the end for me, you know, this cannot be it for me. The second thing purpose does for you is that it sets your priorities. There are many people who are in the pursuit of being great at everything, and I believe at some point in my life I was like that. I chased excellence in multiple fields, none of which I acquired. This is not to say I regret it though. But I think once you have purpose, it tells you where to direct the majority of your energy to. Because you can't be good at everything. You can't. An example I will give is this. Though I grew up, well, not mostly around men, but I grew up, I had the average life of a Nigerian boy child. Unfortunately, I did not learn to play ball. I know sabi play ball. And, you know, sometimes you'd want to like chase excellence in this field and want to be good at it. At the point in my primary school when I realized I didn't know how to play ball, I was second position, and there was this guy, short guy like this. His name is Micah. Can never forget that guy. And he was always carrying first, and I was always pursuing this guy behind him. And the worst thing is that Micah was very playful. So he would play ball, he would play everything. Yet somehow, first, he would carry it. And so the team, he diversed me, right? I had done most things right. I became the head boy, I was recognized by virtually every teacher in that school. And not because my parents were rich, because I did not, what did they call her, a silver spoon? They say I grew up in the hand of God. I don't get spoon for maths. But somehow, because of some of the things that I'd done in school, I was virtually recognized by every teacher in school. And this guy somehow was still ahead of me academically, and I did everything. Brother, I think from primary 3 till like 6, I was chasing him with second position. He did not falter with that first. Very, very undeniable fool. He was my greatest fool. And amongst one of my best friends in school. Primary 5, third term, because that was the last class I did in primary school, was the last chance I had to do this. And that was at the point I was starting to discover, I don't really know how to play ball, and I wanted to get good at playing ball. And so I had to ask myself, which for which? Learn how to play ball, be great at playing ball, or keep chasing this first that you have chased every term since primary 3 to this point and you haven't gotten it. At this point, it's like there's only one that I have guaranteed I'm going to get, which was the ball. But it was funny enough, I still went for the first position, and I got it, by the way. It's what purpose does. There is something I want, or there are two things I want. There are two things I desire, and even if I don't desire the other one, there's something I want and there's something I must do. And it's not a question of whether or not I want to. It's a must. And that's the thing about purpose. Purpose is more synonymous to sacrifice than it is to happiness. Because I think learning to play ball would have made me, happy in some ways. But I've had to sacrifice that for this. And at the end of that path, at the end of the path of purpose, you will always find satisfaction. Always. And that's the second thing. The third thing that purpose does for you is that purpose sets your principles. Purpose sets the principles for which you live your life by. A lot of arguments about what is right or what is wrong, what you should wear, what you should do, where you should go, how you should style your hair, as men. Should you barb it as men? Should you draw tattoos? Should you drink this? I think a lot of those questions, if not all of them, can be answered simply by answering the question, why do I exist on earth? Once you have the answer to that question, there are things that by default you cannot do. You don't need to be told. You understand me? You can't be told. For example, I believe the reason many leaders, pastors, or just people who have a community of people that they lead, which is kind of the same thing as leaders. I believe one of the reasons that majority of them will tell you that they don't drink or will never drink is because alcohol does not have any health benefits and has been proven to shorten your lifespan. Like there's no scenario where taking alcohol is healthy for a person. It is only defective. But most people do it for the sake of fun. There's no scientific evidence that alcohol, there's no health benefit from it at all. And so if a person says, oh, you know what, I want to lead this group of people, I have a church and I need to lead my church, or even just a father who says I want to lead his home and says, oh, I don't want to drink anymore, it's because you understand, you have to be alive long enough to fulfill this purpose. I want to raise the best kids that I can. I want my children to grow up and be great. There are things that now you must sacrifice to fulfill that purpose. Nobody needs to tell you. So you think about, oh, I want to be a singer and stuff like that. You know, there are things you cannot take for the sake of your voice. There are drinks you cannot drink. So it's not a matter of debates of whether or not, should we, should not. And you just hear, many people have figured it out and will say to you, oh, I'm sorry, I can't take that because of my voice. Or as an athlete, oh, I'm sorry, I can't do this because I need my body to be in perfect condition. You don't need to tell an athlete that you need to work out. I'm sorry, what? If I need to encourage you to work out, are you really an athlete? You understand what I'm saying? They have a path that they are working on. There's a purpose. And so the principles are set by default of working on that path. The reason you ask yourself whether or not you should work out is there's no purpose. You understand what I'm saying? I'm not even telling you as somebody that works out consistently. I'm explaining the concept to you. You may not go judge me by the standard, you understand? So that's the thing that purpose does for you. It sets your principles. And the last thing I'll leave you with on this topic is this. When it comes to the topic of purpose, what I call capital for purpose has been provided for every single person that was created. And that capital can look like different things. It just depends on how you, as a person, defines it. For many people, the capital is their beauty. There are people that we have seen that are extremely beautiful beyond comprehension. If you do not understand the purpose for why you were giving that thing, you will abuse it. It's like, I think it was Miles Monroe that said that. But the purpose of a thing is not known, abuse is inevitable. When you were blessed with a certain body size or a certain body shape, it is not. And if you don't understand the purpose and the capital that you've been giving for purpose, you'll be like a man who in his hands is a gun, and he's using the gun to pick his teeth. And all he has ever done with that gun was pick his teeth. And so if you are of the idea that, you know what, I was given a body, I can't really just waste it, let me use it to get money. You are the equivalent of that man using a gun to pick his teeth. And the sad thing is, somebody can literally be oppressing you with that gun in your pocket. Yet all you know the gun is good for is picking its teeth. And so life can be showing you the worst of the worst. And all you know is that's my beauty, that my body, that my strength. Let's talk about guys. Because guys can be beautiful too. But we don't like using that word because it's gay. I'm sorry. Right? So the guys that are, very handsome have a certain face shape, that jawline we always talking about. And have, the body. If you see it as simply a flex, you are the equivalent of the guy picking his teeth with a gun. And I'll tell you, it's not only the things that we deem beautiful. There are people that are born with I cannot say this without laughing. There are people that are born with an oddly shaped head. You see those people. And it may sound funny, but that is capital for purpose. There are people that were born left-handed or left-legged, if that's a thing. It's these things that seem insignificant. They are capital for purpose. There's a story of a man, it's in the Bible, who was left-handed. He was sent on an assignment to kill an evil king, which was very necessary. And so, let's shorten the story. So let's say he gets to the palace, and they're searching everybody before they walk into the palace. And obviously, in that century, the primary weapon was swords. So they're searching everybody, and they're searching the left side of every man for the sheath of their sword, because most people are right-handed, and so that means the sheath of their sword is on the left side. This man, however, is left-handed. That means the sheath of his sword is on his right side. And so in the means to check everybody, they're checking the right side of every man, and they checked the man's right side, did not find the sheath of the sword, and so they let him go in the palace. However, the man held the sword. That story is funny because I don't know how you did not see the sword sticking out, but still, get the message, right? The man held the sword at the right side, and they allowed him go through with his sword in his hand. Imagine that guy looked at his left-handedness and said, "Oh, this is a flaw. It's a problem. Why am I born like this? Why am I?" Until you understand purpose and capital for purpose, you must. Oh, I'm too slim. There's a purpose, and it's very annoying when people fixate themselves on these things, like total their lives around it. Until you understand purpose and capital for purpose, many of the things that God has given to you, you may be overlooking. Oh, I have a great voice. Hey, I don't want to be a chorister. So now what? My guy, you don't have to be a chorister. On the path of purpose, you find out why. It may not even be that you will be a global singer. It may be that one day you encounter somebody who says, "Oh, I'm in dire need of a song." And this is a very, fictional fantasy, not realistic example, but I want you to understand what I'm saying. And I'm in dire need of a song to feel better. Like David, for example, right? He may have written the whole book of Psalms, but David was not called to be a singer. He was called to be a king. However, his voice was capital for his purpose. It was how he got in the palace. It was how Saul came to like him, because he sang and lifted Saul's mood. Just what I'm saying. You've been given the capital. It works like that for every man that was created. And you must do the work of searching within yourselves. What are the things that God has given to me? What are the things that I've been given to achieve my purpose? And many times, those things are a pointer to the purpose themselves. They point you in the direction that you should walk in. So I don't know what my purpose is. I don't have a reason for waking up, but I have a great voice. So why not join the choir for now? Like, nobody's saying you have to become a music minister. But I've been given capital. Okay, this is a sign. I should move in this direction. I was given the capital of dancing, right? From a young age, I've really liked the idea of dancing, and I've, improved the skill and gotten good at it. And I got to a point where I got to lead a team of dancers, because I decided to join the dance team of my church. I joined the team, was just a member, but then, obviously because, again, I was giving capital. So it's about capital, they grow, sometimes very fast. And so the skill grew, and I got to the point where I was assigned the head of the team. And it was then in that leading the dance team as a dancer that I found or came to understand why my existence is. This is the second teaching in a series of 6 teachings that I believe have the ability to change your life. So the next thing we're going to talk about is relationships, friends, family, and even spouse.